I made a video there recently about a High Court case from January 2025 in which the High Court judge confirmed that the owner of the legal charge or mortgage on a property is entitled to deal with it. In other words, is entitled to repossess it and is entitled to sell it. This question of a debt service provider like Pepper Finance, DAC, Mars Capital Finance, DAC, or Everyday Finance, DAC, being able to deal with charges and deal with mortgages and deal with loans that they have bought from traditional legacy lenders. The question of them being able to deal with the properties is widely accepted by most people. They can do that. However, there is a small rump, a small minority of individuals who, for whatever reason, continue to maintain the position that Pepper Finance, for example, is simply a debt servicing company, or it's a debt service provision company or something of that nature. And they make reference then to the financial statements or balance sheet filed by Pepper Finance or Mars Finance or Everyday Finance, DAC, and they say, oh, the charges or the loans are not on their balance sheet or whatever. This is manifest nonsense. And I don't know where this argument about balance sheets came from anyway. It's up to every company, every individual, to draw up their accounts in accordance with the statements of standard accounting practice and so on. And they have reporting obligations in accordance with the Companies Act and various regulations. So every company must have their accounts audited correctly and properly in accordance with accepted standards. So this question of, oh, their loans are not on their balance sheets, or I've looked up the CRO, is just absolute nonsense. The bottom line is that the owner of the charge can deal with it, and how Pepper Finance or Mars or anybody else do their accounts or post their returns or publish their financial statements, that's a matter for them and the Companies Registration Office and the Office of the Officer of Corporate Enforcement, or whoever is the appropriate statutory body to punish any company or to prosecute any company or chase any company who fails to make their accounts or publish their accounts in accordance with the regulations and standards and so on. But this argument that somehow, oh, if you look at the balance sheet of Pepper, they don't have the loans on it, I've never looked at it. The bottom line is, what I look at is the land registry folio or the mortgage, and I see if the land registry folio says, and we'll see here in this video, which I'm going to show you now, if the land registry folio says that Pepper or Everyday Finance or Mars Finance is the owner of the charge on this property, well then they can do, quite frankly, what they like with it. And that has been the finding repeatedly of the High Court, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court in cases, any challenges to this. And as I said at the outset, there was a recent case, a recent decision rather, January 2025 from, I think, Miss Justice Marguerite Bulger, and I think it was her, not 100%. But I've made a video about it, and I will put the video here on this screen somewhere at the end of this video. You can have a look at that if you are still in two minds about the ability of Pepper or anybody else, Mars or Everyday, to sell properties or deal with properties or have people surrender them or appoint receivers or appoint agents to sell them and so on and so forth. Have a look at the video. Okay, let's take a look at the BidX One website. The BidX One website has been used over the last number of years. I don't know when it started exactly, but it's going for many years. There's a new auction every month, and there is a similar company called BRG Gibson who also carry out online auctions. There may be others, but BidX One are probably the biggest of them, especially in Ireland. Now, they also do commercial property and residential property in South Africa and the United Kingdom, but we're not concerned about that. We're concerned about property in Ireland being sold by the owners of charges. And this fallacious statement that some people, for whatever reason, are putting out there repeatedly, they are a minority, that the likes of Pepper Finance or Mars Finance or Everyday Finance, as the owners of the legal charge registered on the land registry website, are not entitled to sell property. They can't sell property, they can't appoint receivers, they can't do anything with it. They have balance sheets, and on the balance sheets there's no sign of these loans or whatever. This is completely untrue. The owner of the charge, and I've made a video about this before, the owner of a legal charge on a property in Ireland can sell the property, can repossess it, can do what they like with it as the owner of the charge. And I would ask people who are spreading misinformation, disinformation about this particular issue and creating false hope for many people, I would ask them to consider where BidX 1 have been getting the properties for the last number of years to sell at their monthly auctions. Let's have a look here now at this one, and this is the 26th of October 2025. It's a Sunday. We're going to have a look in Ireland at the properties that they have coming up in the next auction. So the first property we see here is this property in Broadford in Kildare, and if we click in here we will see and be able to access the legal pack. And if we look at the legal pack, you will see that in the conditions of sale, the vendor of the property is Mars Capital Finance Ireland. And if we close that down and go back then to look at the land registry folio, if we can find it, certified copy folio, this is important. Title is guaranteed by the state on a land registry property, and on this land registry property you'll see that originally there was an advance of a loan by Irish Life and Permanent, who owned the charge, in 2007. Then there was a further advance in 2008 by Irish Life and Permanent, which you'll see here. It says, note, the ownership of this charge has been transferred through entry number 6. Entry number 6 is Mars Capital Finance Ireland. Designated Activity Company is the owner of the charge, registered at number 4, and Mars Capital Finance is the owner of the charge, registered at number 3. So here, to put it very bluntly, Irish Life originally lent money in 2007 and 2008 at the height of the Celtic Tiger property expansion, property boom, lending boom, and ultimately, through one way or another, they ended up selling the loans to Mars Capital, who registered a charge in December 2024, and now in October 2025, you'll see that, and we've seen it there already, that Mars Capital are selling the loan. So if we go back then and forget about that property, we look at the next property. Here's one in Spiddle in County Galway. Go down here, look at the legal pack. Here's the contract. And the vendor here is Damien Harper as agent of Everyday Finance, DAC. So Damien Harper is either the receiver or the agent. In this situation, he's the agent. And if we close that down then and look at the folio, you will see what happened. Where's the folio? Here we go here. You'll see what happened with the folio. The name or the addresses of the original borrower are crossed out. If we come down here then, you'll see here that AIB Mortgage Bank originally lent the money. AIB Mortgage Bank originally lent the money in 2008. Again, it's sort of a Celtic Tiger property boom loan. And you'll see in 2022 they sold the loan then to Everyday Finance. Or at least they sold the loan to Everyday Finance some day prior to 2022, November 2022. And Everyday Finance then registered themselves as the owner of the charge, and you can see it there. And on that basis, Everyday Finance have appointed Damien Harper to act as agent, and Damien Harper is selling the property on behalf of Everyday Finance. There you go, Damien Harper as agent. You could go through every BidX One property on their website, and it'll be the same thing. Here's one in Valencia, County Kerry. Go down here to the legal pack, view legal pack. Draft contract. The vendor here is Roy Scannell, acting as agent of Everyday Finance, DAC. And if we go back then and have a look at the folio for this property, same legal pack, Valencia, County Kerry. The original loan was advanced by EBS. The ownership of this charge has been transferred, however. See entry 3. Entry 3 is this one. Everyday Finance, designated activity company, is the owner of the charge, registered at number 2. And again, we see that the owner of the charge, Everyday Finance, went ahead and they appointed an agent to sell the property, and it's the agent that's selling the property. Roy Scannell, acting as agent of Everyday Finance, is selling the property. And if we go on then, yeah, there's a vacant possession there, letter there as well. So Roy Scannell as a receiver over certain assets. So he was appointed as a receiver and he's agent for this property. He was appointed as a receiver of the property, and I now require you to formally undertake to vacate the property, etc., etc. This property may have been given up, surrendered, etc., by the occupant. I'm not sure exactly the background, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to show that all of the properties being sold at BidX One auctions for the last number of years, and there's an auction every month, it's the same thing. They're being sold by the owner of the charge. And again, we'll have a look at this one. I don't want to labour the point any further, but we will go and we will look at the contract. The auctioneer is BidX One, and the vendor solicitor is Healy Pentony, but the vendor is Aidan Murphy as agent for the mortgagee, and the mortgagee, remember, is the owner of the mortgage or charge. This happens to be a registry of deeds property, so there's no land registry folio of this one. I hope it's clear what the position is, that these BidX One auctions for years, and these auctions are going on for years. All of the properties being sold are either mortgagee in possessions or receivers. The mortgagee in possession is selling directly himself, or a receiver is selling having been appointed by the mortgagee in possession. And it's the same in relation to BRG auctions, BRG Gibson auctions, exact same thing. I think it's fairly clear that the properties at auctions, at the online auctions, the likes of BidX One, the likes of BRG, Gibson auctions, all of those online auctions for the last number of years, all of the properties have been coming from the banks, coming from mortgage service providers like Pepper, like Mars, like Everyday, and they're either selling as the mortgagee in possession, pursuant to being the owner of the charge on the property or the mortgage, or they are appointing receivers who are selling as agents or receivers on behalf of the owner of the charge. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. The owner of the charge calls the shots because they've bought the loan from the original lenders, the original banks, and it really makes no difference how much they bought the loan for. We don't know how much they bought the loan for. What is important, if you're in this situation, is that you understand that they can sell the property pursuant to being the owners of the charge or mortgage, and there is not much you can do about it, quite frankly, from a legal perspective. So you need to be careful about people telling you stuff, telling you, giving you information, making statements that are factually incorrect, and which are, if you follow them and believe them and rely on them, are likely to lead to you incurring more legal costs and ending up with an even worse outcome than you might be in at the moment. Hope you find the video useful. If you do, I'd appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button down below. Thank you very much.